What's up, Salted Nets family? It's Billy Black, and I just want to do somewhat of a recap of some of the going ons of free agency, as it seems that it's just started and it's moving at breakneck pace. I am, as I think everybody, especially people who quote unquote cover. All right, I don't want to use that word to describe myself necessarily, but people that quote unquote cover the sport, free agency is often one of the most exciting times of the year. There are things that we could both predict happening, but then there are a lot of things that we may not have been able to predict happening, or there's a chance to kind of peel back and look behind the thought process and the psyche of the NBA athlete, as well as ownership, and management from the team's perspective. So we will kick off some of the free agency noise, I think, today with a little bit of a surprise episode just to smooth things out. So we won't really dilly dally. We'll probably start with the most important piece of news in free agency, which is Damian Lillard demanding a trade from the Portland Trailblazers to specifically the Miami Heat. Now, this is one of those things that, I mean, we've been waiting for the other shoe to drop for a long time when it comes to Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard is so full of shit, in my opinion, but not in a harmful way. Kind of in a way that most public-facing figures are full of shit, in that everything is an opportunity for PR, and especially with modern-day athletes who I think are so beholden to witnessing their quote-unquote legacies be altered or formed or damaged in real time, that we watch a lot of scrambling. We watch a lot of double talk, talking out of both sides of your neck, things like that come out of these players. And I think Damian Lillard has been the number one culprit of that for years now. It's been a will they or won't they dance between him and Portland, and everybody knows it. And Damian Lillard himself has thrown so much shade at players taking advantage of their agency. So much shade at players who are trying to either put themselves in a better position for winning or simply don't care about being venerated in a way that he clearly cares about being venerated with the Portland Trailblazers, and how much it means to him to quote unquote, and I gotta stop saying quote unquote, but to play out an entire career in one jersey. I understand on a human level the fascination and obsession with that comes from maybe the fans and maybe the players on one level, but I think that it just doesn't logically hold up that it means this much to these players to represent one organization, unless you take into account what it can mean for their quote unquote legacy. And then it does make sense because it translates into opportunities. It translates into dollars. I am of the belief that when you're a player of Damian Lillard's caliber, right, you really do have the choice and opportunity to go to any big market and make a shit ton of money being who you are there. But there's a certain type of cachet that comes with being the best player in a franchise's history. And I think that there are so few franchises for which you have the opportunity to do something like that. And when you look at Damian Lillard's entire story, when he go to Weber State, right? It kind of gives off the I'm not supposed to be here vibe, which can inform probably how you look at a lot of the decisions that he makes. A player like him that did not spend his life, because a lot of these players are, to be quite frank, just a bit entitled. And that's a loaded word. When you throw around the term entitled, it's loaded, especially when you're talking about a sport that is largely comprised of black athletes. It just is. Whether that's right, wrong, in between is probably a far more nuanced topic than I'm prepared to tackle. But it's true, right? But for lack of a better word, a lot of these players are entitled. They expect to make it to the NBA. They are a part of programs and fraternities from an early enough age that sort of frames their success in a way of it's only a matter of time where if you do the right things and things pan out right for you and you don't get hurt, you'll make the NBA. And I think that LeBron in particular, with his special brand of preparedness and really tackling knowing that you're going to be an NBA player probably better than anybody in the history of the game could have. And he's standing on the shoulders of giants. You don't get LeBron James without Dr. J, without Michael Jordan, without the players that took advantage of certain opportunities before and showed what more and more preparedness could do for you and what making smart decisions. And listen, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. This is something that has become abundantly clear to me as I age and I grow. And this is something that I think is abundantly clear to anybody who's a professional, that's trying to maximize their potential within a certain time frame. So I say all that to say there is a general sense of entitlement and understanding of what will be given to them that kind of can make these players' decision making really rote and really, really linear, right? Something that we can pretty clearly see and read unless somebody surprises us. Where you get the interesting perspectives, I think, are from these guys who did not necessarily expect to be in certain positions, right? And I think that what is undeniable is that when Damian Lillard started his career 10 some years ago, he did not think that he would have the opportunity to be the best player in a franchise's history, to be a guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famer person, to be somebody whose jersey will for sure be retired where he was at. And so when you have that opportunity from a marketing standpoint, from a financial standpoint, like he was able to receive the contract that he received is ridiculous. Not ridiculous in that a player received it, because obviously players are receiving this kind of money. But also when you think about this Supermax and the type of contracts that we've seen given out, it's either contracts to guys who kind of don't deserve the money, but deserve it based on what they mean for the franchise, right? Not that they don't deserve the money. I don't want to use a term like deserve, but it's not necessarily logical. It's not a structurally sound investment to invest this much of the team's cap in this particular player. Is this particular player worth this percentage of the team's cap with respect to the goals of the franchise? And that's another part that I think is really important. I think Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers, I think that they've done so well because make no mistake, they have done well. This is not a case of an organization failing a player and a player fail. I think that this can get messy. I think it may get messy, and that might color our opinions of what happened here with this great Portland experiment. But we should never look at Damian Lillard as a victim. Damian Lillard got on the podium and beat that fucking drum, dog. He said motherfuckers was running from the grind. You understand what I'm saying? He lets us know every year how important it is to him to be in Portland, right? While he flirts with scenarios in which he ends up on other teams. That's the other thing. He is constantly fantasizing about what it would be like for him to be on another team. Now he is now and every time you hear a guy talk like that, they fucking leave. And you know a guy like Damian Lillard is going to leave because ultimately, if you are one of the guys for whom a championship is of significant importance to your ego, to what you consider your brand and legacy, we know that a player like Damian Lillard playing for an organization like the Portland Trail Blazers has to go somewhere else before his prime is up. He just signed a 2-year extension, which takes his current contract to something like 4 years. In the final year of that contract, he will be making $63 million a year at 36 years old. I want to let that marinate. The man will command $63 million in the final year of his contract at 36 years old. We are not here to wonder about whether or not Damian Lillard will still be as effective a player as he is right now at the age of 36. Listen, right now he's a phenomenal player and we don't criticize players for the length of their contracts. That's not fair. You secure a bag in any way you can. They could have front loaded the contract. They back loaded the contract. It is what it is. They could, you know what I mean. So he's earned that money. He's commanded that money. But on a lot of teams, probably wouldn't have paid him that. He couldn't have earned that on a lot of teams because a big factor in earning these contracts, a lot of the stipulations, is achieving some of the things that he's been able to achieve in Portland as the clear-cut best player. And honestly, probably the best player by virtue of accomplishment, at least, in the history of the franchise. But the writing was on the wall. Portland is not a free agent destination. Honestly, really, since the LaMarcus Aldridge thing, they've struggled to be, I think, a team that anybody can consistently predict a trajectory for. Their only chance at winning was to build something around Damian Lillard that could win. And once CJ McCollum is punted on and everything like that, I don't know where you can go other than the fact that, yeah, we have to rebuild, and it's going to take us a few years. It might take us 5 fucking years to get where we want to go, to get where you want to go. And this year is when it really reached a fever pitch. And Damian Lillard's a guy that I don't really try to pin down his thought process, because I think he's a guy that likes to hear himself talk. And I record a podcast. I like to hear myself talk. I used to make music, right? People that make music tend to like to hear themselves talk if they're vocally inclined artists. So I get it. But a lot of the time, and he's also one of these guys that, like, I've seen him do interviews, and I don't want to say the name because I don't want to get it wrong, and I really don't like this page, and I don't like this guy in the basketball world and community. I don't want to say I don't like him. I don't like his page, and I don't like his content. But he does seem to do well with certain NBA players. I've seen Isaiah Thomas give him the time of day. I've seen Damian Lillard give him the time of day. But some of the basketball conversation that he participates in confuses me a little bit based on what I know about the principles of the sport, and I think where the intelligentsia regarding the sport is. But all of that being said, Damian Lillard, again, a phenomenal player. But this year, I think it became really egregious with the whole, like, listen, you can't do the whole I want to wear one jersey and say other motherfuckers is running from the grind and all that other shit, and yet be constantly flirting with the idea of if I were to leave. Now we're playing well, if I did leave, I ain't gonna lie, I might do this and this would be dope. And yo, imagine this. Nah, bro. You are mulling in your head about leaving while at the same time acting like motherfuckers who leave are running from something, right? And then there are these arbitrary things. Like, Miami has been a good team for the last however many years. It's just a fact. They've been to the finals twice in the last 4 or 5 years. This is not like some sorry ass team. They had a rough year last year, and while they were on their way to the finals, Damian Lillard is letting it be known that if he were to go play somewhere, he'd like to go play in Miami. And he says something along the lines of, oh, of course, if they win the championship, then that's out of the question. Well, why? Why? This team was in the finals. They literally achieved the highest achievement you can achieve short of winning the championship, which is to appear in the NBA finals and have a chance to play for a championship. And what may be the theme of the conversation that I'm having surrounding Damian Lillard at this moment is that this culture that we have, this archaic mindset that seems to permeate sports and athletic competition in general. And a lot of it is driven by the debate show culture and what I think is the obscuring of what we truly are watching and consuming when we watch and consume a sport, along with the fact that I don't think as many people are consuming the sport in the ways that they used to. People aren't consuming anything in the ways that they used to anymore. But with sports in particular, especially the NBA, there is a highlight culture, and people aren't necessarily, there's a highlight and a number culture, and there's a number culture within sports. I don't want to focus on the numbers part, but I don't necessarily know that people are getting the entire picture. And it's the people who tend to speak the loudest about these players and about these situations. And you see the players affected by it in this way where it's now become normalized, where the players have grown up like this. And I think that players before were used to writers and reporters, but they didn't necessarily buy into it the way the players now do. I think a lot of these players grew up as consumers of this sport content and venerators of a certain machismo kind of illogical mindset that kind of goes against the principles of really business and what these players say that they're all about and that they desire. Right? It's a team game, and the desire is to win championships. And you also possess the freedom during free agency to pick where you're employed, which should be a fundamental right of yours, which people fought very hard for players to have and be able to take advantage of and put themselves in positions to win. In fact, some of the first things that players did when given the opportunity, players who felt like they had played a long time and were really great and could have won, had only they had the ability to maybe have more control over where they are and what they're doing, was put themselves in positions to win and team up with other all-time great players. So when I see these players who are on one hand benefiting so massively, and benefiting is not the end-all be-all, right? Just because you benefit from a system does not mean that you have to buy into it 100% or venerate it. But this system does serve these players. It allows Damian Lillard at a moment like this, no matter what he's said, to effectively make the best move for him in terms of his career and what his aspirations are. But we can't not address that you spent so much time deriding players who made the same choice as you, albeit not openly, not by name, but I would argue not implicitly, even though not explicitly, right? And so Damian Lillard demands a trade to the Miami Heat, and it looked like it was going to be really clean at first, but reports in moments like this are always very conflicting. At first, it's, yeah, the Damian wants to go to the Heat, and the Portland Trailblazers are super keen on being accommodating to that, so he'll just probably end up on the Heat. And now we see kind of combating reports that the Portland Trailblazers are going to explore the best option that they have for themselves. And, you know, they're trying to create leverage. This is fucking, they're kneecapping. Damian Lillard is kneecapping the Portland Trailblazers leverage here. And this is the other thing where, like, there's an incentive, I guess, for teams to do right by these players. And I had this big problem when it came down to the Brooklyn Nets. All fucking year long, and the whole circus with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and by extension, James Harden, I had this problem where it's like, yeah, I see what you mean when you say it behooves the organization to work in tandem with superstars that have achieved much and given much. But this is not charity. You are, if the system is working correctly, being paid and rewarded handsomely. Maybe not as much as you're owed. There's an argument to be made that the American athlete is actually underpaid, but you're being paid and rewarded handsomely, and you are performing a service. It worked out well for both parties. That's kind of the best you can hope for. But now there is this jockeying for leverage that goes on because you are trying to trade this player, and trading is by definition you're attempting to secure something for yourself that to you is worth relatively what the piece you're trading is worth. Now, when you're trading a piece like Damian Lillard, oftentimes you just must accept that you probably won't get what you perceive to be the worth of the player you're trading. But other than that, you're trying to get leverage, and these players, when they say certain things, that for them, it makes sense. They're trying to control where they go, right? This is the fundamental tenet of free agency, and they're doing the best they can to create as much leverage as they can with their agent, but they kneecap the team's leverage. And now it's like, I'm trying to do you a favor, but doing this favor, I kind of know I'm going to get fucked over. So what do we think? Do we think that Portland owes it to Dame to get him to Miami, knowing that that's his preferred choice? I don't. Will I be? I'm not one. Now I'm not, and I'm also. I don't buy so heavily in the fan culture. So you're not gonna. I don't use the team or the player as an avatar for myself and my own emotions. I just don't. So I don't have a side here. I don't have a dog in this fight. Whoever wins, it would just be okay. This person got. It's worked out really well for this person. I'm not gonna feel like anybody's. I'm not gonna feel particularly bad, no matter which way it goes. If Portland gets fucking fleeced and fucked over, so be it. That'll be funny. If Damian Lillard gets what he wants, that'll be good. Probably for me to watch as a basketball fan. If he doesn't, then that'll be something to talk about. So it's not one way or the other with me. But I just don't understand the incentive. I understand Damian Lillard's incentive for carrying on how he's carrying on. I just don't understand the incentive now for Portland to hustle and try to get him to Miami. It's like, what is the point of having a player like this when you maximize your investment on them, and when you finally decide to cash in on your investment and it's not looking like a championship, it's looking like what you can get in return for them? What is the fucking point if you're not going to get a boatload of shit? What's the point of doing this? What's the point of doing this? Because at the end of the day, Damian Lillard scored all the points. He did this. He did that. He achieved all the things he needed to achieve. He ticked everything off his checklist. Now he has to go be great and continue being Damian Lillard. And the impetus is on the fucking Portland Trailblazers to do the same for them. I would think. So it's just an infinitely complex situation to me. And when you think about Damian Lillard, I think me in particular in the past, I've gotten really, really, really caught up on talking about what Damian Lillard is not. But at the end of the day, a player of this magnitude, the best we can do is the best service we can do anybody, including ourselves, is to talk about how fucking great they are. I need to find a time and a space to properly explain to listeners what the LeBron index is. And I think I'll probably do an episode. I don't know if it'll be with or without Biggs. It depends, but I'll probably do an episode on the LeBron index because I think it's going to be right now my primary tool for measuring efficiency and effectiveness. Pardon me, just straight up effectiveness. It's a really, really, really good stat that takes into account it's role adjusted and I believe it's luck adjusted as well, and it just really, really takes into account a player's value for their position and role. So when you hear me talk about somebody's LeBron rating as an offensive and a defensive and there's a cumulative, like a total LeBron rating, when you hear me talk about that, know that that to me is going to be a big, 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 big indicator. And every stat is valuable on some level, but this would be a large indicator of a player's effectiveness to me. So you won't really hear me argue too much against it. I may give context, but you won't really hear me shit on a player who you see creep up really high on that rate. And I think it indicates something, no matter what. And it doesn't matter which effectiveness statistic you use, right? Provided that it's one of the good ones, it's probably going to give you some useful data from which you can ascertain some useful positions or whatever. But Damian Lillard led the league in offensive LeBron. Led the league. Over guys like Nikola Jokic, over guys like Steph Curry, and of course, I'm not even totally sure how many games Damian Lillard played this season, and I don't feel like he played all season. But at the end of the day, when it comes to Damian Lillard, you are talking about the upper echelon of NBA talent, right? You are talking about, like, why wouldn't Damian Lillard be a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? You are talking about somebody who's going to have their jersey retired and not like for some like cultural affect. No, like because he's legitimately one of the greatest players to ever lace it up, right? A top 75 NBA player of all time by that list. I'm not that like you know me by now. That list is not an end all be all for me, but he is on the list, right? This is the regard in which Damian Lillard is held in this league. He is a fucking monster, and he's a monster at a lot of the things that are important nowadays, right? Another, I use the player profiles from B-Ball Index as well, and if you don't know about B-Ball Index, they're doing really great work in terms of making a lot of advanced data accessible, I think, to average people. But if you want to get kind of a good look at Damian Lillard this season, right? His advanced position is on ball guard. He's a shot creator. That's his role. His defensive role is low activity, right? And I think that's always going to be the knock against Damian Lillard. It's like, well, he's not an all NBA level defender, but at the end of the day, a lot of these guys aren't, especially at the point guard position. It's a really difficult ask. But in terms of perimeter shooting, he's a 100th percentile perimeter shooter, and the difficulty level on his shots is through the roof. So he's an above average, far above average 3-point shooter, while the difficulty of his shots is probably also in the 99th or so percentile, right? As far as a finisher, he's 99th percentile in finishing talent. And again, I'll probably have to do an episode where we kind of get into what some of these things mean, because some of the people listening, if there is anybody listening, these numbers won't really mean anything to you, but the things that we are saying are important in today's games, the phrases we keep hearing, right? We keep hearing how important 3-point shooting has become. This guy is elite. He changes the geometry of the court when he's on it, and he changes what your team looks like, especially from the point of attack. Just adding him to your team, right? Changes the dynamic. He is a high isolation impact player. This is in a league where many and most of the players you cannot rely on to efficiently get their own offense going, and where that is such a premium, especially in the playoffs, where a lot of the ancillary things kind of break down, and somebody who can get their own bucket effectively and reliably and efficiently becomes almost paramount. Right, this is a guy who is a premium level talent in that regard. When it comes to finishing at the rim, something that's entirely, again, this game right now is all about what? The rim and the 3-point line. Damian Lillard has got you covered on that, and as a playmaker, listen, as a playmaker for others, it doesn't matter what you feel about how naturally inclined or complex the passes are that Damian Lillard is executing on a nightly basis. It doesn't matter. This is a far above league average playmaker for others. This is somebody who makes everybody he's on the floor with better, not only by gravity and just by way of being on the floor, but then also his ability to find other players for high efficiency looks. And when I say, like, you could listen to me say these things and be like, okay, well, what does this mean? You're just saying things. What I'm saying is that Damian Lillard is an almost irreplaceable player, right? Because again, there are guys who he's higher than on the offensive LeBron ranking list that I think are far more important and impactful offensive players than him for contextual reasons. But when outside of those guys, outside of guys like LeBron, outside of guys like Kevin Durant, outside of guys like Giannis and Jokic and B, like, yeah, Damian Lillard I don't think is 1A, but I think that if there is a tier that is 1B, I don't necessarily see how Damian Lillard is not there, right? I think most people would say Damian Lillard is better than Jimmy Butler. I don't know that I think that. I don't know that I would agree with that, but I think that most fans of the sport would probably rather have Damian Lillard on their team than Jimmy Butler. And those guys are probably going to be playing together next year. That's going to be phenomenal. I think that as basketball fans, and I've done like 30 minutes on this, so and it's the nerve of me to go, I think now, right? I'm sure everybody knows what I think. But I think as basketball fans, we're getting rewarded here. And that's the thing to keep in mind, is that we will always be rewarded. So maybe we don't have to complain so much. But I do find it hilarious that Damian Lillard is finally saying, nah, hey, goodbye, niggas. I gotta go. I can't do this shit no more. I want to go somewhere and win. And the Portland Trailblazers don't have to feel any shame because he's already demanded a trade. Whereas I think Damian Lillard wanted them to kind of like spite him and make him feel bad and trade him so he could be the hero. You could still be the hero, dog. You can still be the hero, but you got to eat crow. My son Paul George said, went from y'all motherfuckers running from the grind, I will only play for the team that went to the finals last year. It's crazy. And Paul George waited a long time to get that shot in, my boy. Paul George waited a long time to get that shot in, my boy. Damian Lillard said some weak shit in return, but this is not Twitter, so we won't go for it. We won't make this all about the Twitter antics. One thing I'm incredibly happy to see is Tyrese Halliburton getting rewarded for being the right kind of player and playing the game the right way. And I think shows how much I think it shows how much the league values good basketball right now. And also how much that he ended up in the right position and in the right place with a team that saw value in him, traded for him, put him in position to capitalize on his talent and the value that he provided, and now they both get to reap the benefits. Like they have locked in a point guard of the future. I think Tyrese Halliburton is the first point guard in NBA history to average 20 and 10 and shoot like 40% from the 3-point line, which is one of those kind of arbitrary stats, but I think just kind of goes to show the level of positive impact, because I think that holds up under scrutiny. I think that just goes to show the level of positive impact that Tyrese Halliburton has on the team, and he is one of those players. Now, is he worth $207 million? Time will tell. I think that a team like when you look at it, the question is he worth that to the Indiana Pacers? And I think so. I think this is the best player that the Pacers have had in a long time. And again, I think that he's someone that stands to only get better and better. Like I used to joke a lot that Tyrese Halliburton is who a lot of people want LaMelo Ball to be. Right? Like it's like, and LaMelo Ball is a phenomenal player. But I always say that just like Tyrese Halliburton's game is mature and it stands to mature more, and it is just a high impact game that just having him on the floor is no pun intended, a floor raiser. I view him as that, and maybe, you know what, maybe next episode we'll do a deep dive into Tyrese Halliburton's numbers, and we'll see if my opinions on him are substantiated. But I would wager that they are, and I think he's a really big guard, which I like. I like what it does for your team when your lead guard can be 6'5", and it really not impair you at all. For it to be all advantage, that's really good. And I love that. I love that with John Wall. John Wall was 6'4", and I love the dynamic that he brought when he didn't often get in the lineups with like huge off guards, but like the potential to do something really special there from a length and a defensive perspective, I think is always great. And I think that Tyrese Halliburton simply being that size gives you the opportunity to plug and play something fierce, something that I think could have taken place in Sacramento, but definitely not complaining. I don't think Sac's complaining, and I don't think Tyrese is complaining. $207 million for my boy, and we will be on Tyrese Halliburton watch all season next year. That's a fact. Now, Draymond Green re-signed with the Golden State Warriors. I cannot say I saw this coming, but he re-signed so early that I feel almost silly for not seeing it coming. But I don't think anybody could have seen this coming because he declined the player option. And what really ended up happening is it became a really, really team-friendly restructuring of what I guess would have been the contract that most people thought he wanted, where he's going to make a little less. Like I think he was making $27 million if he picked up that option, and now he'll be making $25 million over 4 years for $100. Yeah, so it's like obviously Jordan Poole is gone, right? So everybody kept saying they would have to choose between Draymond and Jordan Poole, and then Jordan Poole is gone. And that changes things. Chris Paul's on that team now, and people have their own thoughts and feelings about Chris Paul being in the Warriors. I don't. I have to see this. I don't have an opinion on it. I'm gonna let the film analysis take place and the film analysts do what they do and break down, and I'll watch their shit on Twitter and form my opinion off of theirs, because I can't fucking call it, man. Is Chris Paul supposedly going to lead the second unit a lot? That'll be good. There'll probably be a lot of Chris Paul and Draymond minutes. I don't know, man. I can see it being good. I can see it being weird. Can't call it, but Draymond Green is back with the Warriors for another 4 years on a contract that is very tradable, which I think is another key to this, is that if things do go south, I do think he's on a number where you can get him to a team that wants him. Now, is this the right choice? I think so. I think that the Warriors have earned enough cachet to do what they want in this regard. Honestly, they have just gotten such a ridiculous return on investment from their core that everything is gravy at this point. And if you want to keep it together, it's a proven product. It's proven to work. It's proven that you can reshuffle things around Steph, Draymond, and Clay and win. So I can't say that they're doing anything. I mean, what would be the alternative? What would be the alternative to keeping Draymond Green? I don't know that it was something that is so enticing. Like we need to know what Jordan Poole is. There are no assumptions that could be made right now that he is a great player. You can't make that assumption. I've seen him play great at times, but I don't know that Jordan Poole is a great player, and then I don't know that losing Draymond Green to keep Jordan Poole in service of the quote unquote future is just on its face a great idea. I know, but shout out to Draymond Green, back to the Warriors. I think we all know what that means for basketball and for the league in general. Like that's important. Another year, 2K, with the same Warriors team. Kyrie Irving re-signs with the Mavs. I don't have much to say about this. Guy. Kyrie Irving is a great basketball player. I foresee the Kyrie Irving Luka Doncic pairing working out well on offense. I think that we've seen Kyrie with similarly gifted players, and we've seen that he is able to play well off of players who are gifted in some of the ways that Luka's gifted. So I don't buy into too much of the idea that Kyrie's not good for the Mavericks. I think that the Mavericks have structural issues that are either going to present a large problem for them or not. And that's going to dictate how well they do and where this team goes, is whether or not those internal structural issues with the roster and management will impede this team from progressing. Because who knows how far they'll progress. I don't know. Like, Dallas kind of has this reputation of they kind of get treated like a really important, really great team. And I don't know if they have earned that distinction. And this is before Luka. This is before Kyrie. Like, this is not an indictment on anybody that's currently on the team. I just don't know what people have this really high expectation for the Mavericks, and they don't know why. I know Luka Doncic is on the team, and if they achieve great things, it will be a testament to how great he is. But there's just nothing about this team that suggests that they're owed accomplishment, like that they should be. Like, I don't know. I don't know them to be constantly overachieving. But the final free agency signing that I'll talk about today, because we do have a main pod coming up probably like a day or two after this goes live anyway, is Bruce Brown, Brucey B. Brucey B signed for what? $20 million a year from Indiana. I don't know that Bruce Brown. No, I can't even say it. Bruce Brown at $20 million is like probably the apex of what you pay for a player like that. I think that again, so we're seeing signings that I think are a real testament to how the upper brass in the NBA really, really does actually, especially in the teams that need to. And it was the Indiana Pacers again, but especially in the teams that need to, um, are focused on getting winning players, players that impact winning on high levels, even if it's not in the most obvious ways. And I think that if you're uh, more than a casual watcher of the sport, Bruce Brown, his impact to winning should be pretty obvious and clear to you. But just a commitment as a small market, quote unquote, team to focus on building correctly and building the right way and putting yourselves in position to look up 3 years from now and be a far better team than anybody thought you had a chance of being. I think that kudos, man. Kudos. And kudos on being willing to spend money. Kudos on being willing to spend money, because you'll have to spend money. You will have to spend money. And I, you know what I would have said? I would have said free agents don't go to Indiana. And Bruce Brown is the type of free agent that is totally understandable and kind of expected that he would go to Indiana. But this is what it's going to have to be. You're not going to be holding on out for the next Zion to hit free agency or for this or for that. So you might as well spend your money on really, really high value players that you can get and see what you can build. Free agency starting out nicely. Fred VanVleet is on the Houston Rockets. We like that. We like Fred VanVleet on the Houston Rockets. No. Actually, I'm not going to pretend. We don't know. We don't care. I like Fred VanVleet. I'll watch that team. What does this mean? We're giving up on Kevin Porter Jr.? I guess. I don't know. I can't even pretend to know, man. But hopefully the most exciting things to go on in free agency have not already gone on. Obviously, we're still on Damian Lillard watch. Hopefully, we're not on Damian Lillard watch all summer, because that'll turn from exciting and good content into a long, drawn-out mess that we've said everything there is to possibly say about rather quickly. Here's to the beginning of a good offseason and to bringing you guys more organized and better produced content. Let's see where this upcoming season takes us. And thanks for riding out with us in our first season.